throughout the course, there will be a lot of videos where I provide the report that we are working on as a resource in the lecture. So this is just something that you can use optionally. Of course, you can also just work along in your own file. This is the more common scenario, but in some cases you might want to use my file. For example, you have some issues, you want to just jump into a specific day, and you want to have this report that I'm working on in the video also, so that you can start immediately from there. Maybe you didn't follow along the previous videos. You can do this very easily. So you can download the file, then you can open this file. For example, I've already opened basic cleaning. This is the file that we have been working on in the previous lecture. This opens like there is no problem at all. We can see the data on the right side. But we can also, when we open the query editor, see that there's some error message. And this error message says, could not find part of the path, and then this path. And this is basically pointing to the data file that we have loaded into this project file. And here we see this is the path that is from my local machine, because when I have created this file, it is of course pointing to a file on my local machine. So therefore, this path, this is the path that has been used, is not findable on your machine, because this path is on my machine and this has been created on my machine. So therefore, it's not avoidable to have this error, but we can solve it very easily. And this is actually also something that can happen in many cases, and therefore it's also in general very important to understand this and know how you can solve it. So again, the mistake comes from the fact that this file cannot be found on your local machine. So maybe the path has been changed or the file is not there anymore, and we can solve it by, let's first close the query editor. Actually, we could also solve it by using the source in here. There we can also reconfigure the path. So it's the same way, but we can usually do this right away from here in the report view. So we go to transform data, to this text, and then we see that there is below transform data also the data source settings. So when we click on this, we have this little window where we can see now all of the data sources we have loaded, also the paths to them. And for example, here we see this is our file. So here we need to go to change source. And then we can see this window again. So in here, we just need to change the file path. So we could just enter the path. For example, I could go in here, copy this new path because I know this is exactly in here. I copy it, and then I will just paste it actually just before the sales, because this needs to be there as well. So I will enter also a backslash, and then I can click on OK. Of course, I could also just manually browse the path and the folders to just select the file right away. For example, I go to browse, I go to the location where this file is available, I select it, and I click on open. And then I click on OK, and now I can just close the data source settings as well. And now we see that if we go to transform data, that now this mistake should not be available anymore, and we see that this has been solved. So now again, we can go to close and apply, and this will now apply those changes that we have just made, because changing the data source settings is also some data transformation basically, so we need to apply those changes. We can do this, for example, by just going to the query editor and then clicking close and apply. So this is just something important to understand when you are working with those attached project files, and also in general, if you see this error message, you now know how you can solve it. And in the next lecture, if we have a look at the query editor, we see there are still many issues, and we want to tackle them so that we can find out what is the total revenue. So to do this, we first need to fix some of the data problems in here, like all of these missing rows, the NA values, and so on. So that's what we are doing in the next lecture.
Thanks for watching the video till the end. Please leave your thoughts below so we can discuss more about the topic. If you'd like to suggest a video that could help the community, feel free to message me on X or Instagram. We also share short videos on Instagram, so make sure to follow us there. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. and might even create a video based on your suggestion. Thanks again for being part of our community. See you in the next video.